Now, I know I say this a lot, but this is honestly one of my most favorite motorcycles. It's a very interesting bike, and I'm going to tell you guys all about it. What's up, guys? I'm Sean from Srkcycles. We have a 2009 Yamaha FZ1, and when I saw this thing, I had to buy it because it was a clean bike, and I just love these bikes, and they're getting a little more rare nowadays. And I'm serious when I say that this is one of my most favorite motorcycles. And the cool thing about this bike is this bike really started a motorcycle trend, in my opinion. And this was kind of the first cool looking, one of its kind. Now, the Yamaha FZ1 came out about a decade earlier in the early 2000s. And what they were doing was they were pretty much taking the generation prior Yamaha R1 motor and they were sticking it in this cool naked sport bike. And what this bike really did for the motorcycle community is this really solidified the big, powerful, naked street fighter bike, which, no one was really doing that much, or they weren't doing it that well. So a lot of times with life and with motorcycling, kind of with everything, they say you can't have the best of both worlds. You can't have a comfortable bike that's super fast, and you can't have a car that's can seat your kids but looks cool and all these stuff. I kind of feel like this kind of breaks that mold and is the best of both worlds. You have 150 horsepower. I said that right, 150 horsepower from the old gen Yamaha R1 motor, and it's a very comfortable bike. So it's a bike that you could ride for a long time. I mean, my handlebars are up here instead of down here. Where my feet pegs are, this bike feels just as comfortable being on the track as it would just, carving up mountain roads, as it would just cruising down the highway, getting you to work every day. Actually, let me show you the comparison of this to a Yamaha R6. So this is a Yamaha R6. This is a 600 Super Sport. This is the most performance-oriented, aggressive, ergonomic bike that you can buy. My feet are as far back as they possibly could be, and the clip-ons, which are underneath my triple clamp, push my arms down. So this is the position I'm in, right? So now compare me and how I'm sitting on this bike to the video up here of me on the 2009 FZ1 and see which one looks more comfortable. So not only is this more comfortable than that R6, I'm not bashing the R6. The R6 is a great bike. I love 600 Super Sports. Not only is this more comfortable, it's actually 50 horsepower more than that bike. So your buddies with their Super Sports, you might teach them a lesson on this. I hate that bike. No, I'm kidding. But what's the point of a bike like this? Why do you need this much power on a comfortable bike? And here's my solution. There's a lot of people out there who they got Super Sports, and they're realizing that I have not been to the track in 3 years. I don't really ride it the way it should, but I still like that power. And what most people do is they're like, well, I still love being on a motorcycle. They sell their bike and they go to a Harley Davidson or a big cruiser or, just a big V-twin. They're kind of missing out. I get it. If you want to make that change, awesome. But for a lot of people, they still like going fast. They still like that big power. And this is the solution that I would go with. It's comfortable. You can ride it for a long time. You can keep up with anyone out there. And they're also inexpensive. There's no downside to this bike, and they look cool. And without the FZ1, we never would have had the FZ6, the FZ07, the FZ8, the FZ9, which later they changed to MT, and then like the MT10, which is kind of the new version of the FZ1. So let me go over some of the cool features about this bike. A tire, a motor, and buttons. So I mentioned the FZ07 being like little brother in the same family as the FZ1. And there are some similarities, but not as much as you think. Even though this is a 1000cc and this is a 700cc, you might think that they're actually pretty similar. Now the ergonomics, yes. The sitting position, being pretty upright are very similar, but it kind of ends there. This is a twin. This is a 700cc twin, making around like 60 something horsepower, while this is a 1000cc inline 4 making around 150 horsepower. The power range on the FZ07 honestly, you don't feel very comfortable going too much over like 85 miles an hour. It's just the wheelbase and everything's just not made for it. This is a great bike for around town, you know, cruising on the highway. But if you're trying to exceed the speed limit or do track stuff, this is probably not the bike. Now, I love these bikes. I normally keep one around for myself. They're great for just, you know, riding around wheelies and stuff, and they're inexpensive. But when it comes to true big performance, it's really hard to beat this. Where this thing's gonna have a top speed of 150 miles an hour, and it's gonna feel comfortable doing limits like that. This thing only claims a top speed of 120. I wouldn't even feel safe riding that bike at 120. Both of these are awesome bikes, just with different purposes. And for different reasons, I would love to ride this one, or I would choose to ride this one. Let's go take this one for a spin right now. All right, guys, before the test drive, let's do the words of wisdom real quick. Luke 16:10, he who was faithful in a very little things. He who is faithful in very little thing is faithful also in much. And he who is unrighteous in a very little thing is righteous also in much. Oh, my gloves dropped. That's a great verse. That really, you know, makes you think that even small things count. And if you're not wise and faithful with small things, you know what? Probably no one is gonna give you the chance to be wise and faithful with big stuff. I know when you're a little kid, you know, you don't take care of your bike, and your dad's like, I'm not buying you a car because you can't take care of your bicycle. And you're like, ah, it's a dumb bike, Dad. I'll take care of my car. Nah, it doesn't work that way. I love these bikes. These bikes are so much fun. That inline four power is just awesome. And the way they set up the power band, it's even, you know, it even feels torquier than a normal, like, you know, 1000, just because the way they gear it. You know, the low RPMs just have instant power, because it's not actually made to be a track bike or to be a race bike. It's not made for 190 miles an hour. It's made for 150 miles an hour, and it's made to always have power whenever you want it. It just, I love it. Now, what's kind of throwing me off is those mirrors. I'm like, are those the right mirror? I think they are, but they just seem so odd. I feel like they should bend over more. Maybe they're supposed to go down more? I don't, maybe that, I don't know. Whatever. The cool thing about these bikes is, I guess not that many people know about them. You don't see them very often. They're out there. If you want one, you can find one. I mean, we have ours for sale. It's got it's gonna have 6,300 miles on it in the next mile. But they're really inexpensive for what you get for a 150 horsepower bike that looks good and is comfortable and it's all these benefits to it. They're really inexpensive. It is a great bang for your buck. And listen, I'm past the point of, like, you know, I gotta impress other people and stuff. So I think these bikes are great. Oh, I do have a 600 sport bike for my you know, for track days and stuff. But I would have more fun and much rather ride this on the street. This thing just kicks. And then the handling is great. I mean, you can really carve it up. Ooh, I gotta avoid that road. So I don't know if I'm gonna do a 0 to 60. Maybe I will. It's cold. This bike is fast. I'm not gonna get good traction on it. If I did one, it wouldn't be that great. No one would be impressed by it. With that 12,000 redline power band, this thing just goes on. It moves for days. But if you're doing a trip, if you're doing a trip and you're gonna be on your bike for a long time, most of my weight is on my legs and on my butt, and I'm not actually leaning on I'm not leaning my upper body onto my handlebars. I'm just holding on to them and controlling them. You know, kind of like what you like, you know, kind of like how you sit on a dirt bike or something. My legs are far back, so my pegs are up, so I have a pretty good lean angle. You always want to watch out when it's this cold. I'm not trying to push any tires to any type of anything close to a limit. Yeah, that's not right. I gotta tighten that up. Guys, I am loving this bike. This thing's awesome. Can't wait to see who buys it. We do ship all over the country. Srkcycles.com. I want to tell you guys something real quick. There's a website. As of right now, it's called motoquote.info. We're actually changing the name to insuremoto.com. So you can go to either. Actually, yeah, whatever. Insuremoto.com or motoquote.info. I know it's confusing. It's a website where we actually made this website. We work with a team of really good people where you go in, it takes you less than 2 minutes, fill out, answer a couple questions about you and your motorcycle, nothing crazy like specific, and then someone's gonna call you back or text you or email with a quote of the best possible rate you can get for motorcycle insurance. Guys, if you don't have insurance and you're riding a bike, you're dumb. It's very dangerous. That's a big fine. Do not do it. But if you have a bike and you have insurance, you might want to check every, you know, once a year to be like, can I get a better rate? A lot of times what insurance companies do is they like to creep it up. They like to creep up on you. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll get them for a good rate. And then next year we'll creep it up and they won't change. It's easy to change. It's not a big deal. And a real person is actually going and looking and getting better rates or getting all the rates from all the major companies. So check out motoquote.info right now. Click on the link below. We'll see you guys later. Remember, it's not what you're riding, but where you're going.